Hello everyone, SirMonkeySuit Zappy here, back again with Fate Unlimited Blade Works on episode 5, or episode 4 technically. I think it's only episode 5 for Netflix. I think for everything else it's technically episode 4 because the prologue doesn't count as an episode. It's like episode 0 or whatever the fuck, so, you know, it's a bit confusing, but yeah, so technically we'll say it's episode 4, but for Netflix it's episode 5. Whatever. Anyway, yeah, right, so we just got done with what they considered technically the first battle, even though I consider the first battle between Lancer and Archer. I mean, you know, like, it was a bit more of a scuffle, I guess, but, you know, it is what it is. So, yeah, the first battle, what they consider the first battle, was between Rin, Saber, Shirou, Archer, yeah, those four versus Berserker, who Ilya is in control of, though it hasn't really been confirmed whether or not she is actually a full-on, you know, master, or she's just taking the, you know, taking the role that Iri had in Zero. But apparently, just due to like the sheer, you know, like just the stats of Berserker, like itself, is able to take on all of the other 6 just on base like raw power. So I'm guessing that's got nothing to do really with the fact of his Noble Phantasm, though his Noble Phantasm is fucking nuts. I mean, because I'm thinking about it and I'm like, just because, like, you know, it's basically regeneration, it activates as soon as he's, like, it's like a death trigger, so as soon as he dies it sort of regenerates. So I'm thinking it's literally impossible to kill him unless there's like a perfect counter Noble Phantasm. Because I'm thinking if it's something that activates when he dies, then that means that he's sort of brought back to life, and it's technically not a regeneration more than it's a sort of you know, a sort of revive type thing, like a revival type Noble Phantasm. But you know, so unless there is a little, like, a Noble Phantasm counter that another servant has, then the only real way to take care of him is to kill the master. Then that's nuts. That's fucked. And that's the thing as well, is like, once the master's killed, the servant itself can sort of attach to another master, right? Although that only accounts for like a person who hasn't got a servant at one time, right? I think so. I don't know. But yeah, but that battle came to an end when Saber used her Noble Phantasm, and, you know, Ilya, like, sort of backed off after that, and whatnot, and yeah, Shirou ended up throwing up blood after the battle, similar to what Carrier did in Zero. I'm thinking it's just because it's like, you know, because Saber's like, oh, like, you know, going beyond to try and like kill this thing, it's having an effect on Shirou's body and making him throw up blood. So I imagine in the future they're going to have to try and work with that, but we'll see what happens anyway. So yeah, we're going to get in this episode and see what we get. So without further ado, let's go. Okay, episode 4 or episode 5, depending on where you're watching it. but yeah, we'll say it's fucking episode 4, whatever. Right, so at the very beginning there, we got we're in Einsburn Castle, I believe, and Ilya was being talked to by, I don't know, I'm guessing they're like the equivalent of like sisters, so nuns essentially. I don't know if I have like any real relation to like Ilya or whatnot, like in that sort of family tree or whatever. I mean, they look very similar, so it's possible that, like, you know, they're all homunculi. Oh wait, well, they're sort of, I think the main sort of, how would you describe it? The main branch of like that family tree probably become homunculi, but then, you know, the other like part of that family tree are kind of used elsewhere, like, you know, whether like servants, maids, whatever the fuck. and whatnot. I kind of want to like get a bit of background on the Ainsburn family, really. So yeah, if there's any sort of particular story or way to get that information on Ainsburn, on the Ainsburn family, then let me know, because I would like to actually, you know, understand a bit more of that. I'll probably have to wait until I've actually finished Unlimited Blade Works before that, but I'm interested regardless. But Ilya was saying that there's no way to counter Berserker's Noble Phantasm. Before this episode started, I specifically said that the only way that I feel like you could take that guy out is if there was a perfect counter. It would have to probably be a Noble Phantasm's, like a Noble Phantasm form, or you would have to kill the Master. In which case, that, you know, it would pretty much be out of the race unless there's like a free Master available. So yeah, before the episode, I said that that would be the case. The fact that she clearly mentioned that there's like no way to counter it is interesting, especially because literally after she said that, one of the sisters, whatever they are, said that every 3 days restoration. So I'm guessing it's a case of Ilya, depending on who the Master is, if it is Ilya or whatever, they only have enough mana to use that Noble Phantasm every 3 days. Right? Because later on in the episode, Saber was mentioning that, like, you know, to use a Noble Phantasm is like, you know, you can't just use it willy-nilly, right? So it has to like require like an insane amount of mana to use. So you can only use it as long as the Master is able to give mana to the servant in order for it to work. So I'm guessing that if it's Ilya or whoever the Master is of Berserker has a pool of mana that can sustain one use of that restoration thing every 3 days. So that's how you counter it then. If that gets out, because, you know, it's one thing like, oh, they give away what Berserker's Noble Phantasm is. It's that he can just regenerate from basically he can't die. So that's out in the open. But the idea of like how long, I feel like if it can't be used willy-nilly, then if you just keep killing it over and over again, eventually like the Master's not going to be able to give the Berserker enough mana. Like, I feel like every other servant and Master should really know that, you know? So, yeah, it's gonna have to be that. But then again, like, in order to take it on, because it is that powerful, like, you know, depending on who it's fighting against, it would help with a team up, because if you have like multiple servants use like their Noble Phantasms against it, like one after the other, then, you know, it can't regenerate. But, you know, like if, for example, Saber, when she used her Noble Phantasm like once, I doubt she would have been able to do it again. I heavily fucking doubt that, you know what I mean, like straight afterwards. So it basically just comes down to a battle is like who's got the highest pool of mana to fucking to give out, you know. But yeah. And then Ilya mentioned that the reason why she's so interested in Shirou is because she wishes to make Shirou suffer in Kiritsugu's place. What? Like, why is this happening? Why is this happening, man? I mean, it could be for another reason. At the end of Zero, right, we left off with Ilya saying, like, she was basically being consoled by, like, either the spirit of, like, Illyasviel or whatever, by her mother, or it was just words that she said before she passed away, you know what I mean? Basically saying that, like, you know, Kiritsugu's out there, like, trying to save the world or whatever. And she agreed with that at the end of Zero, right? She was fine with that. And that was 10 years ago. So I don't believe that the reason why she wants to make Kiritsugu suffer is because he never came back. You know what I mean? She knows he's alive. She must do, because otherwise, like, you know what I mean? Although her kind of phrasing is weird, like, she must know that Kiritsugu's alive and looking after Shirou, and because Shirou's sort of like, you know, his new, it was Kiritsugu's like new sort of child. Is it as simple as just a case of like envy from Ilya, that, you know what I mean, he never come to see Ilya again? Because it's, you know, it's safe to say that Ilya knew about Shirou before, like, turning up. Like, you know, before this series started, I think it's safe to say that Ilya knew about him. So either it is just as simple as straight up envy because she feels abandoned, or it could be a case of like the Einsburn family sort of like, you know, like giving him, like giving her like this incentive to hate him, like giving her reason to hate him because he didn't fulfill their end of the, you know what I mean, like his end of the bargain when the last Holy Grail War went. But I thought like the punishment was he was never going to see Ilya again. I thought that was the punishment, you know. Either way, it's going to have to come to a point where we're going to have to see like Ilya and Kiritsugu together. We'll have to, right? Surely. You know what I mean? Like, that has to be the case, because he's got to be still alive. He has to be. And I'm sure he's still living there. Because when they're talking about, like, Saber turning up and the reason why she's there is because, oh, she's an old friend of Kiritsugu, right? And then Fujiwara said, oh, if she's come to see Kiritsugu, then I guess that's fine. So that would imply that Kiritsugu's still living in there. And also there was a couple episodes back where Shirou like looked into a building that I don't think we've been in before. And kind of like looked at the building, but never, I don't think never went in. But then there's like things where it's like things don't kind of add up in the sense of like when Lancer came to finish off the job to kill Shirou, right? At that place. It's not like Kiritsugu came out wondering what the fuck was going on when shit was fighting, you know what I mean? So, has he locked himself away in there? And, like, refused to come out? Is that, like, I guess? Because otherwise, I don't know. I don't know. Putting the pieces together, though, that's the only... It's the only thing I can really gather, is that he must have just locked himself away for some reason. I don't know what that would be, though. I don't know. Rin. I think Rin's making excuses. It feels like she is. I feel like she has, because of what Tokyomi's distilled in her, right? Is this idea that the only thing that matters for this family, right, is that you get to the root, right? And the way through that is you have to do it through the Holy Grail War, right? So he's instilled this idea in her that that's the only thing that matters. And because she's trying to live up to his legacy, like she's trying to live up to her father's legacy, she tells herself constantly, like, this is what you have to do. Like, she has this she gives off this sort of the way she speaks about it and stuff like that is like, you know, all knowledgeable and just seems very straightforward in what I'm supposed to do. Like, this is what I'm supposed to do. But everything related to Shirou and things like that, it's excuses, right? You can kind of bypass it at the very beginning because obviously he had no idea what was going on, right? But then, like, I only really thought this at the beginning of this episode because I feel like this was one step too far. Like, oh, carrying him back to his house and stuff like that, right? It's like, you know, I feel like you've owed him enough. And the fact is the character stereotype of being a tsundere fits that way of thinking. Like that she, you know, oh, it's not like a, you know, it's not like a likey or anything. You know what I mean? Like, and then putting it under the guise of like, oh, I just don't want to be in debt. When in reality, if this is the way that she wanted it to happen, then she would have had no issue taking him out anyway, you know? So, and then the thing that sort of gives me more reason to believe that she is making excuses, is at the end there when she's, I can't remember, it was like a quote, it was a quote from Archer or something that basically said like, let's see if I can find it, because I need to see what it is.
おそらくキャスターね。
となると、昨日は
分けたこと？あれは最善だったと思うけど。
どうかな。キャスターがこれほど広範囲な網を張っているにもかかわらず、荒らしてしまった。
Let's have a look. Where is it?
そうかしら。キャスターを追うわ。気配はまだ残っているんでしょ？
Oh yeah.
竜道寺に逃げられる前にか。
君の主義ではなかったか？
そうよ。けど。
Yeah. So she says like, you know, but this is a special case, don't you think? Like, because, you know, don't do stuff that's beyond her, right? That was a policy of hers. That's what Archer told her, right? It's like, oh, that's your policy, right? Don't do shit that's beyond you. And she's like, oh, no, but it's a special case, right? Like, and then Archer basically says like, oh, it's, if I didn't know any better, it's like, you're going out like, you know, purposefully looking for a fight. It's like she's forcing herself to do this Holy Grail War stuff, not because she really wants to, but because she has to. And everything that would involve something like, you know, with people that she knows or has never actually wronged her, right? She knows this whole idea of like, you know, of you have to fight the other masters, right? And at the end there, you know, Archer's like, oh, well, what if Shirou turns up again, like, comes to you and not wanting to fight? And she's like, oh, I'll kill him. But remember, like, literally, like, episode 3, or what, like, whatever it was, he just specifically said in front of Kiria, like, you don't need to kill the other masters. And then Kiria's like, oh, like, he makes cases for, like, oh, no, it's like, if you really want the wish, the other masters have to die and shit. And it's like, you know, if she's not entirely sure exactly why she's doing it, it's very much a case, like, I'm just thinking, like, she's making excuses. She's doing this because she has to, not because she's wanting to, and I feel like that's sort of, I feel like as of this moment, that's her personal battle in this show, is like, you know, the fight of like, is it like having to versus wanting to, right? Which I think is perfect for her character anyway, because I feel like because of how Tokyomi was and Zero, it kind of just like complements that idea of her story in that way perfectly. So if I'm thinking logically, then yeah, I would say that Rin is like she's making excuses not to kill Shirou because trying to live up to her dad's expectations about doing this because this is the only thing that really, like, this is the thing that matters most, but she doesn't really want to, but she kind of has to, kind of thing, you know? So yeah. Shirou's injuries. It's like, so he got bandaged up right after he got taken home, and he was coughing up blood. Now I thought it was because or basically Saber was like took too much mana from him to use her noble phantasm, right? And that's what caused him to do it. So it like actually, you know, affected him physically. So either that is what happened, and what caused them to throw up blood was the fact that she used too much mana from him. Although it also, like, maybe split his body apart, almost. If that's even a thing. I don't even know if that's a thing. Or he was just generally just injured by, like, a flying piece of debris or something. Because I can't remember where he got attacked here. There was, like a slash mark here. When did that happen? I can't remember. Because I don't think it happened, but I might be entirely wrong. So, yeah. I don't know where those injuries come from, so if you let me know in the comments, that'd be appreciated. Interesting enough, yeah. Saber also said that you know, she was basically telling him, like, all of the, you know, the different servants and whatnot, and you know, sort of how things work, but like around noble phantasms and that. By using noble phantasms and stuff like that, it kind of gives away that, you know, it gives away who the person is, and then other servants can, like, determine what weaknesses that servant has. And by saying that, she basically said, like, normally a servant would be fine exchanging, like, what hero they are to their master, but because there is obviously, because he's a novice mage, he doesn't have really all that experience to sort of, like, block out sort of reading mind magic, which I never even thought about. Like, that, I don't think that's ever been, like, acknowledged in Zero. I don't think it was. It was never, like, you know, told. I know there was, like, different kinds of magic and whatnot, so I guess it would have been safe to assume that, like, yeah, that kind of magic does actually exist, but I never really thought about it. But it's interesting nonetheless. Also, when she was talking about it as well, like, you know, when, like, it comes up with, like the sort of, like, you know, like Saber, and it's like, oh, it's just like a swordsman or whatever, and then it was like Lancer, and he had, like, this fucking, like, cool, like, fucking sort of, I don't even know what kind, I can't even remember what kind of hat it is, like, triangulated hat kind of thing, whatever. Basically, they all had their own, like, the full-bodied, like, apparition, like, sort of, you know, statues or whatever. And it's funny because I'm sure, like, if I can find it, right, Ryder looks exactly like what Berserker did, like in Zero. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, right. Look at this. Look at that. Look at that. Is that not, like, pretty much nearly Berserker? Just because the way, like, you know, he had that the helmet, right, with the sort of the tail, like, almost like the horse tail, like, coming off the back, right? It's pretty much what that is. It's just mad, like, thinking, like, you know, because when you, I guess if you've watched, like, if you've watched Zero and that's all you've seen of, like, the Fate series, whatever, then you kind of associate the different servants with the look that they are, and I think that's obviously a big reason as to why this show, even in a limited Blade Works, like, tend to keep the servants looking pretty much similar, like, in some regard to their counterpart in Zero. That is obviously not the case with Berserker in this, but, you know, like, Saber's exactly the same. Archer looks fairly similar. Lancer looks very similar. I guess we'll wait to see what the other ones are, but yeah, it's mad when you, like, have that sort of image as to who they are, and then, like, you know, Berserker, that's what he looks like, but then you get to this one, it's like Ryder, he looks like Berserker. It's like, it's just a mindfuck, man. But yeah, I just thought I'd pick up on it because it's interesting anyway. Saber said that you can't dematerialize. That's interesting. I think they were talking about it maybe like in episode 3, and maybe I've just forgotten about it, because I remember them specifically, like, they were talking, it was like quoted them two having a conversation that was saying, like, oh, so they can, like, basically disappear and appear at will, right? And then they went on to say, like, something different. I thought she mentioned, like, straight after that, so it was like, yeah, that's Archer's, like, you know, that's why Archer's, like, not here. He's, like, up on the roof, like, scouring, you know, basically looking out for enemies or whatever. But I'm not sure they ever mentioned, like, they may have mentioned it in, like, one subtitle that I might have just missed. of this idea that like, oh, they can like sort of materialize and dematerialize, but that may also take some, you know, some form of mana or, you know, whatever from the master themselves. And because obviously he doesn't have all that much, maybe it's not possible for her to do it, or it is possible for her to do it, but she chooses not to because it's going to take too much mana anyway, and that would be just even more of a disadvantage. So it's either one or the other, but I find it's an interesting sort of concept though for this show, that like she's stuck, like she can't just disappear, you know what I mean? So I you know, whatever form that takes, of like, if that adds anything to the, you know, the arc of the story, like, you know, because she can't dematerialize, then that's that. Or it could just simply be like to add to the more slice of life part of the show, where it's like, oh well, now she has to stay, like we'll have to find a reason why she's here. It's like her living like a real person. I don't know, either way. Kazuki Sensei, right, that guy. I think I think it was episode 2. I'm pretty sure it was, because it was like focused around like Shirou's side, or episode 1, depending on. Oh fuck's sake! You see, this gets so confused. I fucking blame Netflix for this. I blame Netflix for it, because technically technically the first episode, like episode 1, is supposed to be the double length where it's focusing around Shirou, right? That's supposed to be episode 1, but because there's a prologue known as episode 0, Netflix can't put that. They had to put the prologue as episode 1, so everything's like an episode in front for this. I hate it, man. I hate it. Netflix are fucking dicks for this. Anyway. Fuck. Right. The episode where it was focusing around Shirou, right? The double-length episode, okay? We will, because it was technically episode 1, that's what we're calling it, right? Episode 1. Fuck. There was a moment where they were in the classroom, and then the entrance of the classroom, like the door opened or whatever, and you only saw the back, right? But it was like this sinister figure. And at that point, I was like, who could... It's got to be like one of the kids, right? That's the Master of Lancer. That's what I was thinking. It's like one of these kids. It has to be one of them, right? And Issei, the student council president guy, was one of the people like that. It was at that point it was either him or Shinji. And I think after that episode, I was like, nah, it's not going to be Shinji, because they're focusing way too much on him being a dick. It's going to be way too obvious. So that they're going to try and throw you for a loop, and then it would be the student council president, because they're focusing on him with Shirou quite a bit. I think it makes for a more interesting story for her to be him. And anyway, in this classroom scene, yeah, the door opens to the entrance. There's a shady figure standing there, and he calls out to Issei, obviously for some reason unbeknownst to the audience, the viewer, and then even to Shirou as well. I think I know what it is. In the episode, I think I like zoomed in on it and I said, is that Lancer? Because I thought like maybe like he was, you know, Lancer was, maybe he was like ordered to act like he was a school teacher, but he wasn't, because he looked similar. I thought the hair was similar, but because it was so far in the background, I couldn't tell. But no, it is actually a teacher. Makes more sense, because I think kids would still look at Lancer and be like, who's that? Who's that supposed to be? It would be a bit too, you know, out in the open. So it makes more sense that it's actually a teacher. But I'm solid on this theory that I think Issei is the Master of Lancer, but Kazuki is like the mastermind behind it. Like, he's sort of coerced Issei into doing it. And I wonder if there's like a... I don't know, like... The reasons why he's doing it is obviously is malevolent. I think it's not, it's like you know, it's more out for himself. I think that was obvious from like the shit that's, you know, the shit that was like, you know, trying to kill off Shirou like immediately and stuff like that. But the thing is, You see, now I'm thinking, and I'm like, maybe Lancer and his master have been... Huh. All right, now I'm confused. Like maybe I'm thinking because when in this episode when Rin and Archer went to that like office location or whatever, and they were talking about it's a witch stealing life force and stuff, right? So it's a woman, or a girl, depending on who they are, because there could be another fucking student at that school. You never know. Stealing life force being the interesting thing there, because that was the first thing that Rin picked up on before Lancer showed up, right? So maybe it's possible that Lancer and his master have been set up in a way, like maybe not like intentionally, but you know, like maybe to like the viewer it might seem like, oh, they're up to evil, like no good shit, but they might actually be. I mean, it's hard not to say not that bad, because obviously Lancer was basically made to go out and fucking, you know, and kill Shirou and whatnot. But like, it's you know, the rules of the fucking thing. It's easy for like one person to say something that's evil versus like what? Oh, it's just the rules of the game kind of thing. You know, so I don't know then, but you know. Because I'm thinking that Kazuki is behind Issei, who is the master of Lancer, I am thinking that, you know, Seba basically mentioned that the guy's like, so she was impressed by him because he's like, everything that he does, apparently the way like he sort of moves, his breathing pattern is all like perfect and efficient, and just even the way he looks being so sinister, like, how do you not have the vibe of like, well, he has to be doing it for his own, like, his own gain. Like, it's a bit of a weird thing to say that, because, you know, generally in a fight between, like, in the Holy Grail War, technically everything's for their own gain. Like, you do it for your, you know, for yourself. There's still like a sort of selfish sort of nature to it, even if like the wish is supposed to be like for the betterment of the world, you know. Anyway, yeah, went off on a tangent, but you know, I'm just struggling to think that maybe the whole life force thing that was on the roof, like in episode 1 and 2, if that was actually the witch did that and not Lancer and his master did that, it might be something completely different. Or the life force thing was a way to attract and almost set a trap. It could be either or. Yeah, so Shirou apparently is great at archery. That was brought up by Mitsuzuri, who acted a bit odd. There was a moment where she like where she mentioned like, oh, she said some quote, and Shirou was like, and he like, you know, he had like Vietnam flashbacks to 10 years ago when, you know, the whole fucking war went down, whatever, right? And I thought maybe it was relating to something that maybe like an enemy of his had said, like if Lancer had said the exact same quote or something, and that maybe that's what he was picking up on. But I don't know, because I can't. Well, first of all, I can't remember the quote that she said, so I'm not going to be able to remember like, oh, who said the quote as well. Like if it did happen before. I just want to put it out there so that if I am right in that regard, then at least I was right for something, even though I can't remember exactly who it was. I'm just thinking because it's a bit odd that like that one quote would be the one to like, you know, like catch him unaware, you know. We'll have to see. We'll have to see there what comes out there. But because Mitsuzuri doesn't strike me as like, she doesn't strike me as like anybody, you know, like that's in the Holy Grail War. So although there is that whole witch thing, and it is supposed to be a woman, a girl, so I don't think it's got to be obvious, the hand thing though, right? Like that's not something that people can't just like ignore. Like the hands are out in the open. Does she not wear like archer gloves or something? Maybe not. I just God's sake, I've got to look, haven't I? I've got to fucking look at it now, haven't I? Alright, where is it? Here. Yeah, like, in this scene where she's talking to him, in, like, the, you know, the entrance where all the lockers are and stuff, like, her hands are visible, so... Yeah, like, I feel like in any scene where hands are visible, I feel like it's, you know... Yeah. Maybe looking too much into it, but that's just what, you know, just what it is. But yeah, she was Mitsuri basically saying that he was great at archery. He pretty much always hit the fucking the bullseye, but it's almost like he never wanted to, which is strange. I don't know like what entirely she's really getting at there. Like, will he ever come back to the archery club? Like, because it's such a like a serious sort of like the tone of this scene, it's got important written all over it. Like, this is something you should be taking note of, you know, like it matters. Maybe it's just a case of like trying to get like what Shirou's going through, like what he's sort of didn't have the desire to want to hit it, don't have a desire for anything. So maybe like, I don't know, maybe it's a case of like he has the potential to do something big, but maybe doesn't have... Well, no, that's not right, because when he's on his own, he talks about being, like, a hero and whatnot. I don't know, maybe he's set himself up, like, this idea that, oh, don't worry, Kiritsugu, like, I'm going to, like... Maybe he's taken too much on, and he's sort of, like... You know, like, it's the pressure of being able to achieve that is a bit much, maybe. I guess. I mean, while I'm here looking at it, I might as well have a look to see. Yeah, you never crack a smile, Emiya. He has this like fucking like wide-eyed like, what did you just say? You never crack a smile. You see, now that I remember the quote, I am pretty sure that like that's never been said in this show. I'm positive it hasn't. But I might be wrong. You know what I'm noticing? Like, yeah, like you never get a full look at the back of her hand in that scene. Oh my god, the suspicion is real, man, when you don't know who the fucking masters are. It could be fucking anybody. Ah, no, she doesn't seem like one of the masters, though. She doesn't seem that way inclined, but she could just be having us on. She could be just easily playing us for the fool. Anyway, yeah, that is all, because I've been waffling on for quite a long time. But, yeah, good discussion. But that's all. So thank you everyone for watching. In the description below, I've linked certain things. One was the Discord. I urge everyone to get over there, especially if you want... No, that's my old routine. That's completely different now. Discord. That's where I am and my community is. So if you want to come over, chat with us and get yourself over there. SirMonkeySuit.com. That's my website. All my shit is over there. Go over there, become a member. And Patreon. So if I do have a Patreon. If you don't want to support me, that would be very much appreciated. There's a bunch of different tiers and rewards depending on how much you want to support me with. So there's the early access, $5 a month. Gets you access just a week early, and you get 4 episodes of Fate every week. $10, that's full length, gives you access to my full length library. Everything I do gets a full length. Exclusive tier, $15, that gives you access to a bonus show which I'm currently reacting to, which is going to be 7 Deadly Sins. That's every Wednesday. Elite tier, that's $50. Every time you pay $50, you get a choice of a show that you want me to react to, and I will react to it. It will go to the back of the list by about 7 shows. My team will get round to it, but I will do eventually. But if you don't want to wait and you want to get your show reacted to next, then you want to get God tier, which is $100. But that is all. So thank you for watching. I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.